But anyway, she did hire me in 1977, and it was, I worked like, I wrote all this lecture out, and which is like the last time I ever did that in my life, I suppose. But I wrote it all out, and I had all these notes, and it was great. And then I was so happy after the first week. Well, the second week, I kind of was in the middle of talking something, I forgot what I was talking about. And I was just stopped talking for about a minute. It was awful. And it was absolutely terrible. I was terrified. But it was really lovely. Bruce Haldeman was in that class, Michael, and he showed up late, I remember. He was at the Big Eye or something, I don't know. He had some excuse. Did Michelle come?
I'm here.
Oh, there she is. Michelle, we've been bragging about you here.
Michelle, we were sorry to start early, but Terrence has been early once so far.
His entire life.
5 years.
Yeah, right, yeah. So, okay, so.
This millennium, right?
Yeah.
No, goes back to the last millennium. Yeah.
Okay. So I've got all of these wonderful prepared remarks, okay? But it's not my show tonight. It's definitely not my show. Hi. We've got more people. We definitely needed Davis tonight, but then we're competing with the piano competition. So anyway, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Michelle Bartlett, and I'm really very fortunate to be the Director of Summer Sessions and Lifelong Learning here at the university. And I want to welcome you to the university and for this amazing evening. And I know that theoretically there are 250 people in this room, but we're not going to talk about it, okay? But in addition to that, we've got classrooms above us that are full on level 3, level 4, and some in the Murray building. So,
I was going to ask why.
Why? It's all about you.
No, bad joke.
At the end of the evening, there will be a reception right outside the door with lots of goodies. So whether you're watching it in here or you're watching it up on the screens, you all come on down and enjoy. Terrence will be there, and as well as wonderful goodies. And we have to thank the UAF Department of Arctic and Northern Studies for helping to sponsor the reception. So thank you. Who have friends that wanted to come but couldn't come. You see the guys in the back, they're recording it, and it's going to be turned into a YouTube video, and it's going to be up on our website by the end of June, so you can see it over and over again. Over and over again. So
Michelle, Jerry just said, what year?
What year?
Yeah.
We do things in summer session doesn't. 2018.
Right.
I'm not going to ask you about those books, right?
Right.
But Terrence is the master storyteller, but we all have stories about Terrence that we could tell other people. Is that correct? So what I'm inviting you to do, you see the guy in the film right there? He's going to stay here after Terrence is done, and I encourage you to come and share your Terrence stories for posterity. Okay, that would be really wonderful. And there's many people to thank for making this possible. It's never a one-person show, primarily to my staff. It's the summer session staff that I have the fortune of good fortune of working with: Katie Kennedy, Mark Steele, Laura Bender, and Spencer Nance are marvelous students who have been there while we at the same time are getting ready for 150 summer classes, 46 summer camps, and an additional 41 free summer events. So it's been an amazing opportunity. We also need to say thank you to Nick Harrison, who, when I called and said, I think we're going to have an overflow, has put it on the web. And specifically to my friend Juella Sparks, wherever she is, it's an unthanked position of making sure everybody had a seat tonight, although I don't know how successful we were. But this, I could go on and on, but this is not the Academy Awards. It's all about you, right? Okay, so how did this happen? How did this idea even happen? Well, I was thinking about Randy Pausch's book and lecture, the final lecture, and I was thinking about Terrence and the challenges that you've been facing, and I was wondering if you would want this opportunity. So it was January, I was in Costa Rica, and I called Dermot, and I said, well, what do you think? And the rest is history. So I'm going to turn this over to Dermot to tell you exactly how it turned out. Thank you.
Wait, before you do that, can I say something? No, I want to say, and Michelle, I did say, remember that class you hired me to do 40 years ago?
Oh, yes.
Remember the name of it?
Help me out.
I'm older than you are.
Oh, Fairbanks Saints and Scoundrels.
Oh, yes.
The terrible title that you came up with. But you know, it was really actually successful. And, but I want to say that there's a lot of people at the University of Alaska, you ask them to do something and they'll say they'll do it and they'll never do it. And that's not true with this woman right here. There are many good people at the University of Alaska, but goodness sakes, there's nobody like Michelle Bartlett. And that's really true.
I want to thank you all for coming tonight. I'm Dermot Cole. I'm Terrence's older brother. And I think openings, you know, we were both writers. I'm more of a typist. He's more of a writer. But there's a difference. Do you get that difference?
See, and you know, he's not very good at jokes either. You notice. You have to say it. Say, I'm more of a typist. No, I say he's a writer. I'm more of what you call a typist.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay, it's 7 o'clock, so we're starting right on time. Anyway, opening lines are important. Now, and in that line, I always like to think of these words. They threw me off the hay truck about noon, which is the opening sentence in The Postman Always Brings Twice by James M. Cain, which is a great opening line for a newspaper, you know, writer who became a novelist, you know, James M. Cain. Terrence really has made stressed opening lines in his writing, and by kind of osmosis to my writing, in fact, the book that I was most proud of, which was on the 1908 auto race from New York to Paris, he gave me the idea, and then he gave me the opening line, which is, it began in Times Square, which, you know, he thought was a great opening line, and I think is a good opening line, too.
No, I'm a better writer now. It's not that good a line, Carmen.
Okay. But at one time you claimed it was a great line.
I did.
Okay, but I just want to read a few of his opening lines. And this does show that you spent a good amount of effort getting the opening line right. When news of the Klondike Gold Strike reached the outside world in 1897, it spread around the globe like a declaration of war. That's not bad. Here's another one. In 1949, Austin E. Caplathrop was the richest resident in all of Alaska. But the 83-year-old self-made tycoon was not a happy man. That is a good line as well. This is from Banking on Alaska, which is a history of the National Bank of Alaska, and also one of the best economic histories of
1,000 footnotes.
Of Alaska.
1,000 footnotes. Mention it.
1,000 footnotes. and it is also good. It's big enough to be it works on any door.
Yeah. Well, and wait, before you say, I got to tell them this. All right, well, go ahead.
Okay, here's the opening line. Alaska's first bankers were seldom experts in methods of high finance, but they all knew the weight of a sack of flour and a bag of beans. I guess my point is, you don't come up with these opening lines, you don't come up with really good opening lines without working on it. Right? And that's it's an important skill and an important one in Terrence's professional life. So getting back to openings, the two of us, we were born on September 23rd, 1953, which is an important date because all twins born in the United States that day won a washer and dryer as part of the second annual Westinghouse Blessed Event Day.
Well, and
In our case,
what are we going to say? The reason is because in those days people didn't have dryers. Oh, all right.
yeah.
No, he's just
Okay.
he's
all
just
right.
not good at
Okay,
this.
so let's admit so the Westinghouse company come up with the Westinghouse twins, which was a twin washer and dryer. Now today that's common to have a washer and dryer, but in those days it was odd, you know. So, but Blessed Event Day, we were one of 233 sets of twins whose parents applied for a free LS7 washer and a DS7 dryer. A 1-year supply of baby food and, you know, a lot of diapers and, you know, everlasting fame.
Salt and pepper shakers.
Yeah, it's all over
We have a salt and pepper shaker.
Well,
The dryer is the salt
Parents
shaker.
gave up our names, Dermot and Terrence, and I know this because my dad had bragged about this. They didn't want twin names that could be rhymed. So they thought they had succeeded until someone told them about Derry and Terry. So,
But I think it's worth pointing out Dermot's named after a killer. I mean, it really is.
I don't know, he's an Irish American, he's an Irish
Hero.
hero.
Well, according to the British, he's a killer, but
Okay, let me get serious here now. Okay, I'm really getting, he's throwing me off my game. But, okay, so these beginnings are important, but I also want to talk about, endings are important as well. And in his office where he works, he has a quote on the wall, which I like a lot, and it applies not just to writing, but to all sorts of enterprises. And it's from the Samuel Johnson's preface to his dictionary. And he says, "In this work, when it shall be found that much is omitted, let it not be forgotten that much likewise is performed." And that is a good thing to remember. I've run into many students over the years who told me they had to take his class. Because he taught a class that was required. And he willingly did so, and many others in the history field did not want to do that class. Because actually, often it was in this room, right?
yeah.
And how many people were awake?
No, some of them were
At
awake.
least some were awake, but some were not. But I've also heard from many people who said that his antics, coming in here with transparencies flying around like. And by the way, he still has 3,000 transparencies.
No, it's about 10,000.
All right.
I must admit, one time, that clock right over there, I was walking over here, and I started pretending something with a wall, and I kept pounding on it, and the clock fell down. So I never said anything about it, and obviously it's back up there now. So that's thanks to President James Johnson. I think he's the one who personally put it back up there. All right, well, go ahead. All right.
Okay. Well, I want to, talk about something.
Oh, don't talk about that.
Yeah.
I got a good joke coming up.
Is that the joke?
No, the joke is the next slide.
I'm supposed to show a slide that shows the Festschrift. The Festschrift, you know what that is, right? Who knows what a Festschrift is?
Fresh shrimp?
How do we turn the light? Actually, if we turn the lights down, will the video not work?
See, this is technical problems. This is his entire career been okay.
Technical difficulties.
But we have to
Yeah.
show this slide.
Well, that's not the wrong slide, then. Okay, so let's see. Maybe get out of the PowerPoint. And then, do you have it in my PowerPoint, or where do you have it?
No, this is a who's on first.
Well, I think you screwed up.
Oh, no, does anybody there know how to fix it? Yeah, IT guy.
That's right. It's all right. Just talk about it then, whatever it is.
Oh, there's Big Fisher.
Okay.
This is a very bad introduction, sorry, but I do want to thank the Rasmussen Foundation, the Rasmussen family, Governor Frank Murkowski and Nancy Murkowski, who at least we're at, they may be here, I'm not sure, but we're here this evening and thank Terrence. All of his former students, friends, and you know,
And who else?
others. University of Alaska President Jim Johnson, Chancellor and famed history writer John Straley. But you have to show this slide because it's important. Here it is. There we go. No. Oh, there it is. It worked. All right. Now we have to turn the lights off a little bit to show this. This is kind of small, right?
I have never seen this.
Yeah, he's never seen it before, that's true. Okay, now, this is Festschrift. Festschrift, it's a German word that means book.
That's not what it means.
Well, it is a...
Does anybody in here speak German?
Okay.
Anybody ever been to Germany?
Okay, well, the point of it is,
He doesn't know what it
it's a book that's done by academics, colleagues, for someone kind of wrapping up at the end of their career. And so, because of the Rasmussen family and the contributions of many people in Fairbanks and across the state, this book, The Big Wide Soul of Terrence Cole, an eclectic collection to honor Alaska's public historian and one and only public historian. Anyway, it doesn't have that title, but this book is going to be published by the University of Alaska Press shortly, and it is mainly contributions from many prominent faculty members, historians, and public figures. The painting on the cover is by Kes Woodward, and they asked me if you would like this picture. I said, of course, and would you like the title? And I said, I don't know, but I don't care. You know, that's a good title. What's that?
How's the first sentence?
Yeah. Okay, this may be the first sentence actually in the book. I got off the bus on an August night after a long ride on the Alaska Highway to Fairbanks and started walking to find my brother's cabin. I had a backpack and a hand-drawn map that directed me to follow College Road and go past the University of Alaska campus to the Indiana Highway. It was about 11 p.m. that night in 1973, and it was dark and warm. Anyway, you have to read this. Anyway, the point is...
That's him.
While I started walking, some guy comes by on a motorcycle and goes, "Hi, Terrence." And I didn't know anybody in Fairbanks. So, anyway, it was the first conversation I ever had with anyone in Fairbanks. It gave me a ride and a place to stay that night. I discovered that Fairbanks was the kind of place where you stood a good chance of being mistaken for your twin brother. Anyway, okay.
But in fairness, there, guys point out, in fairness, just 2 days ago, I'm on my bike, and this guy stops and said, "Hey, Dermot, or you Dermot, or are you the other one?" My whole life, I've been being the other one. I'm really sick of it.
And one of the things I remember, the first thing
The other
I remember, my first memory of him is this. This is an odd memory to have. We had twin beds, of course.
We lived in the same room for like almost, 20 years.
And I was very small. I had trouble. I couldn't go to sleep. My eyes were wide open. I couldn't go to sleep. So I remember asking him, "How do you go to sleep?" That was the question.
I don't remember this. Oh.
Yeah, because he doesn't remember it. It didn't happen. That's not how it is. It did happen. I asked him, "How do you go to sleep?" And I'll never forget what he said. He said, "Just close your eyes and go to sleep." And
that's genius.
So, some people have said because of the title of this event that he's going to stop lecturing. And my daughter Eileen said there's no chance he's going to stop pontificating.
No,
or lecturing in this sense. But I do, let me close with this. And that is, Terrence said that he thinks Walden is one of the great books of literature. And so while I was preparing to write about him, I was looking through that, and I had the wrong page.
This is what you call preparation. Jesus.
What did I do with it? This is embarrassing.
It is embarrassing.
I'm not,
It's the last page.
I've been working on this too.
I know, you've been...
I've been working on this.
Here, right here, right
All right,
here.
I wanted too long here. Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, I'm trying to stop.
See, blaming it on me.
Okay.
Oh, great.
All right, but anyway, this is a quote from Walden, which I think is appropriate in this occasion. He's talking about what he had learned in the woods. I learned this, at least, by my experiment, that if one advances confidently in the direction of his dreams and endeavors to live the life which he has imagined, he will meet with a success unexpected in common hours. So I think that's a good thing I want to say about my brother. Thank you.
Thank you, Terrence. Thing is, I'm Dermot Cole. Dermot Cole. He always says he's Dermot Cole. Yeah, I'm Dermot Cole. He was a little bit, Terrence is shy, and and he's modest. And I realize I'm not as good looking as he is and anything and all that. But anyway, thanks, Dermot. That was great. It's really true, we do have one big argument about the day Kennedy was assassinated, and that, yeah, well, it's true. We were in 5th grade, and I remember this woman came running across we went to this Catholic school, and of course, this was one of the worst days in history, and we had the mother superior of the school, who was a really gigantic woman, with a beet red face, and a couple of times, she was the only time I ever got hit in school with a ruler, with the metal edge of the damn ruler, when I was, not paying attention, that we were in church, and I was talking away, and she whacked me. But this particular day, she goes to the window, the lady comes running across and tells the news of Kennedy's been shot. And I don't know, I just thought the look on her face was so peculiar, I started laughing. And now Dermot claims he's the one who started laughing, but I know that's not true. Right? Don't you think it was you? Yeah. Well, he's a big liar, that's the problem. But anyway, no, that's really wonderful, Dermot. I didn't know that's how I told you about going to sleep. That was pure genius on my part. That's how you go to sleep. That's funny. But anyway, one of the things I'm most grateful for is being able to live in this town for all these years with my identical twin. Because it's like I've got to live life twice. And, people talk about cloning themselves, and, I've never said that. It is true, I'm the other one. Our brother Pat used to say, if you take away everybody Dermot knows, Terrence doesn't know anybody. Because Dermot knows thousands of people. And, I've told this story a couple times. One time I was at Bill Burroughs at the airport, and he thinks I'm Dermot, and he's yakking away. And I didn't think anything. I think, okay, I'm not going to explain it to him. So we get on the plane, and lo and behold, we're sitting next to each other. And I thought, oh man, I'm going to have to tell him. I'm not going to wait all the way to Seattle pretending I'm Dermot. So I finally have to tell him about 20 minutes into the flight. And it was really bad. He was kind of embarrassed. And usually, of course, it doesn't embarrass us. But the difference is I'm polite to people when they mistake me for him. He is not. How many of you have ever encountered Dermot thinking it was me and he was rude to you? Look, Dermot, look. Yeah, see? Happens to me too. Well, anyway, this is the title of my talk, the final lecture. Now, it has, a couple of my students thought this title is a bit depressing. I'm not going to blame this on Michelle Bartlett. Is she still here? Well, she did suggest this as a title, and that guy, Randy, whatever his name is, gave the last lecture. It's called Last Lecture or Final Lecture. Anyway, I didn't see his lecture, but I read the book afterwards, and the book is terrible. But we had a worse title. This title is better than the original title I had. And this was my original. Oh, no, not that. That was to cheer it up, see? Dead man talking. I think that's a good title. I think it's a great title. Well, no, the truth is, and most of you know this, some of you may not, I do have stage 4 gastric cancer, which is incurable, or inoperable. And I'm very, not resigned, but I would say it's just taught me a lot in the last 9 months. And I've had 14 rounds of chemotherapy, and I'm pretty able. I really don't feel the ill effects of cancer very much. I felt the chemotherapy in my hands and my feet. So if I fall down here, that's because of chemotherapy. And if I do fall down, though, it's not meant as a joke. But I would appreciate still a good laugh. What the hell? So I'm really lucky because of my family and my children who are all here and really helping me through this, and Dermot. It's very hard on Dermot, and I feel really bad for him because it's very difficult for twins when this happens. And it's called the left twin syndrome, and it's just very difficult. And frankly, I'm happier it's happening to me than him. I am. No, I'm not joking about that. I really am. I do feel that way, which is funny, I guess, but I don't know. It's hard to explain, but it's really true. And all my brothers and sisters mean a great deal to me. But it is like with Dermot. I've been able to live 2 lives. Now, it's not always a good life, that other second life. Like one time at the airport, this knucklehead at the parking lot refused to let me out of the gate. I said I wasn't him, and I had to show him my driver's license. So, but anyway, dead man talking was my dad. Now, I must tell you, I get a lot of advice from people. Like, for instance, Provost Henricks is here, and President Johnson, and Professor Macbeth, and, Professor Cass Woodward. They get a lot of advice from people who think they know all about what you do, right? Well, I get a lot of advice about talking, so I'm going to share some of the advice I've gotten of what to do in this talk. Yeah, look at this. Now, Dermot quoted Eileen on this, but he told me originally it was Debbie. Yeah. What am I supposed to do with this? That's not nice. It's long suffering. But I have some other advice. But I'm going to start my talk at the end and say thank you, because this is the most important thing. I'm so grateful to everybody who's here. I can't tell you how much it means to me. It means a great deal. And I'm terrible about answering emails and letters. I really am. I'm always terrible at it. But now I have a perfect excuse. The guy's got cancer. I could say, I thought of a lot of stomach jokes. I don't have the stomach for that. No, literally. Literally, I don't have the stomach for that. But I'm really so grateful to Anne Shinquin, and I don't know if Anne is here. I should have gone and seen her, but she gave me my job. I don't
think you need to use the mic.
Oh, I don't? No. Oh. It's kind of a Sinatra thing, Straley. You're a big star. Wait, who is the person who said they learned how to do this term? Who is that? Oh, Broadway Danny Rose. He's the guy who was the expert at this. Along with the world's tallest midget, right? Yeah. But anyway, no, I'm really grateful because Anne Shinquin hired me in 1988. Oh, okay, I'll put it down. Anne Shinquin hired me in 1988 over the stern objections of a couple of people in the history department, which will go unnamed. No, I'm not. But anyway, and I've been really lucky. And because I always wanted to come back to here, and I wanted to, ever since my oldest brother, Pat, and I came to Alaska in 1970 when I was 16. And I've been given so many opportunities, and I'm so grateful. My professor, Jerry Macbeth, who saved my ass when I was a young faculty member, gave me some really good advice. We went to this Clinker Daggers, Biggerstaff and Pete's, or whatever, and whatever it was called. And Dr. Judy Keinfeld, who essentially, oh, do I have to use it again? Oh, I mean, I'll just hold it with it off and pretend I'm using it. I founded the Northern Studies program, and under Anne Shinkwin getting us wrestling the money for it from here and there. And anyway, I've been so lucky, and I really am grateful to everybody who has been good to me. Even the people who weren't good, those couple of people I'm not going to mention. There's a great song by the Blind Boys of Alabama, and he says, God thank us for our enemies. They keeps us humble. My enemies kept me humble. But my friend, Dr. Lee Husky from Anchorage, true, he's an economist, but that doesn't mean he's a bad guy. See, that's a good joke. Though I must admit, John Straley accuses me of telling bad jokes poorly told. Let me tell you about General Grant. No, never mind. No. This is a joke that I told on television, but I got it all wrong. And I told the joke, and then I went, wait. I forgot to do it right. So I'm incredibly grateful. And to my colleague, Dr. Mary Erlander, who I've always say is the most wonderful person I've ever had a chance to work with in my life. And that's saying something when you're at a university, Obviously, there's a lot of unpleasant people at a university. There are. Okay, they're not all in administration. Come on. Actually, I have something for a former president of the university in my spiel here. Oh, Jesus, I better get going. I'm only on slide 2. All right. Anyway, these are two people I really want to sign. That's me on the left, and I was 26 years old. And that's Klaus Naske in the middle, and it's Bill Hunt on the right. Bill is 89 years old. We just saw him last week. He came to my son Desmond's wedding in Phoenix. These two guys, and there's me in the typical Klaus Naske bear hug, that meant the most to me as both of a person and a profession. And that's why I got into history. I didn't even major in history here at the university. I was studying geography, and just because I like maps. Of course, the old gag was, what's the capital of North Dakota? Ha, 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 But I got into it really because of these two people, and particularly Bill Hunt on the right, who still remains one of my best friends. Klaus was, he was a very difficult person sometimes, but he was wonderful. He was really wonderful to me and to many of my colleagues here. And he and Bill both taught me so much. For a long time, there was a show on television in the 1960s called Alias Smith and Jones, which they adopted, so they weren't easy for administrators to deal with. Bill Hunt, in those days, he might have imbibed a little bit, and he constantly went to this story. Whenever he saw Dr. Wood, he would go up and say, the best thing you ever did was hire me. And I guess because Dr. Wood hired him. So anyway, they both mean a great deal to me, and I wish Bill was here. I invited him. I was going to pay his ticket, but he's having an operation, so he couldn't come. So we founded a scholarship. Actually, there's scholarships in Bill's name that I helped found, and one in Klaus's name. I don't know if Dinah is here. Did Dinah come? I don't know if she's here. I should have called her. In Klaus's name, and also my family's name actually for my brother, Pat. So anyway, thank you, in case I forget to do that again. Anyway, this was John Straley, sainted gentleman. I thought, it's hard for a guy to work up a good talk when they're getting all kinds of criticism from people. Or that. Now, this... No, not going to do it. Wouldn't be prudent. No, I'm not going to do that. Yeah. The hell. Makes a guy mad, Okay, well, I came up with the terminal lecture, Truth, Trump, and a Sense of Tumor. How? Better title. I have a really good sense of humor. I mean, actually, the weird thing is, okay, it's really a bad joke. And Marie knows this. The problem with gastric cancer is I don't have a tumor. So this is kind of a bad joke because it's not really a tumor. Gastric cancer, it's called diffuse cancer, so you don't have tumors. But anyway, so this is what they call poetic license. Or for the people in the English department, creative nonfiction. So this is Desmond doing a lot of Trump jokes, Dad, right? All right, Trump jokes while airplane food dress. So this is only marginally a Trump joke, marginally. Marginal. Oh, no, I forgot. Put Carter in there. All right. Some Alaskans love to hate Jimmy Carter. I got this from Chris. Is Chris here? Allen's dissertation. Chris Allen, one of my students, his PhD doctoral dissertation called Locked Up, which is a really great dissertation. Get it online about the opposition to Nilka. It's really amazing. But anyway, this was in there, and also just to let you guys get it out. Okay, there they're burning Jimmy Carter in effigy. All right, great. You know, Fairbanks always has a way with something. No, this is the Trump joke. It's just sort of a joke. Now, the greatest headline, it really is the greatest headline in the history of Fairbanks newspapers. Fairbanks newspapers. I don't know, you just wonder. So, Tom, did you write this headline? Was this your headline? Yeah. Anyways, that was January 12th, 1907, was a bad day. As they say at the bottom, is cause for, let's see. I have a laser pointer which shows you I'm prepared. Cause for alarm, unless it can be proved, simply a rare coincidence. Otherwise, don't worry, it's fine. Anyway, this is the Trump, sort of a Trump joke. Anyway, those are three men. Now this. Now, Governor Murkowski, I guess, left. So I put this in here just for him. So he was telling me he was in my spiel. This is when Dermot and I got an award, and that's me. Well, which one's me? Which one do you think? Is that me? Yeah, that's me, and that's him. See, he's just not having a good time. Anyway, okay. But this is the problem. Look, I get that dumb newspaper, the Chronicle of Higher Education, which all you administrator types like to read, like Dean Todd Sherman. Jim, do you read this?
Yes.
Oh, God. Don't waste your time. Jim, take it from me, a guy with cancer. Life's too short to read the Chronicle of Higher Education. The hell. Anyway, all right. Susan, did you ever read this? Oh, no, God. Well, don't read it anymore. Now you're retired. You don't have to read it anymore. Anyway, now, academics too scared to laugh. Give me a break. What knuckleheads are academics? Okay. So this is a line I got. I've read a lot about humor, actually, and health, and then trying to think of how to deal with this cancer. But think about that the Association for Applied and Therapeutic Humor. A playful discovery, expression, or appreciation of the absurdity or incongruity of life situations. And of course, that is what defines our lives, isn't it? It's amazing, you know? And so I've approached having cancer with the way I've approached being a professor, which some people may not think is quite serious enough, including those two people who never wanted to hire me. But I put this in my workload for Dean Sherman. My latest book, and I pretended this was my latest book. It was a joke, and I sent it to him. And I said, I really want to thank my colleagues at the University of Alaska for really inspiring me to write this book. This is a real book, by the way. It's not, I didn't make this up. But Laura, I guess Laura's not here, but our administrative assistant in the history department, she has such a good sense of humor, she put this up on the bulletin board in the history department under historians at work with my name on the bottom. But it's absolutely, positively true that for me, so not just cancer, but also the life, that the issue of social laughter and how it helps you weather pain. And in fact, laughter is older than language. And this is one of the basic human ways of communicating, and I couldn't live without it. I would have never got tenure with that. Well, I barely got tenure, but maybe laughing too much at the wrong people was probably a bad idea. But it is this true that it's essentially a mediated opiate effect, which is why I've never been addicted to OxyContin. Otherwise, who knows? So anyway, so yeah, I did some actual research in a book called The Science of Why We Laugh. And the issue is, I think, at least for me, and Dermot's right about thinking about opening lines of books, because I think that, to me, humor is the key to all of the research. I'm always looking for what is incongruous about this or what's interesting about it. And it helps me to the little bit of creativity maybe that I have, that I do it this way. Because if I can get something that really sparks something, it doesn't have to be a ha-ha joke, but at least if it's entertaining in a way that really grabs somebody by the neck and you won't let go. So this is my real title, Playing History, My Life So Far. This is me when I was finished my dissertation. That's my son Henry there, and he was 3 years old. So when he was when he was little, we always had this game called Playing History. That really was the game. This is Henry at his typewriter, and that's me at the IBM Selectric 3 I bought with the first PFD dividend. I was smart. I bought that. Dermot bought an Osborne computer. Waste of money. And in fact, Henry would say, "Daddy, can we stop playing history?" I'll admit it. Might have been child abuse. Maybe it wasn't. But to me, it is a game, actually. Life is a game. And I've had such enjoyment out of it, I can't tell you how much. And basically, it's how I've sort of approached everything my entire life. It's interesting, the two of us here are two pretty good actors. You know, we're not looking at the camera. I think that's smart. Anyway, I'm showing my favorite picture from Alaskan history. This is the first day of school in Iditarod in 1912. And we'll zoom in on it, and there you can see there's First Avenue. And there's there, and there's there. And what I love about this picture, I always love this picture. I always almost imagine myself, that's me, I could be the little boy, maybe that's my sister there with me. And look at the world that you're entering. And just imagine, this photograph is by Basil Clemens, who is a great early Alaskan photographer who set up things in a comical and interesting way. This is obviously completely 100% a created piece of art that he made, the way that he shot it, and having the kids sort of looking down that way. And I think this is the key, one of the key points of this talk, if there is going to be a key point, which is that the future they're looking up to, who knows where this future leads. And in one sense, I feel sorry for younger people today in some ways, is because they're trapped. And what are they trapped by? I think they're trapped by the data of this computer age. And I don't mean people wasting their times on cell phones. I mean that the people are trapped by the inability to reinvent themselves, free of the burdens of the past. Actually, it's Carolyn's roommate, Dina, who's a grad student here in natural resources, told me about this podcast I listened to this week called The Pattern Problem. And what it's based on is the algorithms that Google, Netflix, Uber, all these companies are mining to predict the behavior of people. And the problem is, as more and more and more and more data is collected on people, they're more trapped by the past. I think in some ways, I think it's a disaster, because everybody should have the chance to make mistakes. Capitalism is based on the freedom to reinvent yourselves, and so is American liberalism and the idea of escaping your mistakes. And children, in some ways, like my daughter Elizabeth, who's right here. Elizabeth, raise your hand. It's much more difficult for her to escape from mistakes. If you listen to this podcast, it's called The Pattern Problem. It's a case of a woman who was in her 40s before the Washington State Supreme Court and wanted to be an attorney. But she was a convicted felon, either once, twice, or 3 times, I forget. She was represented by a guy who wrote a book called Lawman, who also was a convicted felon, but he was a lawyer. He had broken through. And it's really difficult because the data all shows you're a felon, you're a criminal. This is what all the data is being compiled on what people are. And then the past then is going to be the future. That's the problem with this. And forget about that crazy saying, oh, those who don't know the past are condemned to repeat it. That's crazy. You know, the problem is, ask Michael Carey going to Northern Ireland. People who know the past, they're the ones who love repeating it because they're stuck in it and they can't get away from it and they can't see what's ahead. So that's the thing I think that's fearful for me, just thinking about in a way what all this data means. How do you escape from it, from the science fiction nightmare of we know what you're going to do and we're going to, what was that, is it Philip K. Dick novel? Of Minority Report, that they'll capture people before they commit the crime. Well, that's what Netflix does. That's exactly what, well, Desmond's scoffing because his sister-in-law works at Netflix, and her job is to make these algorithms, but as the data becomes better and better and better and better, and the computers become faster and faster and faster, they're going to the technicians are going to want to say that they can do it. In this podcast, The Pattern Problem, they tried, it's a sociology they wanted to see what are the predictable factors that would lead to a high grade point average by age 15, I think it was. And they couldn't do it. It still can't be done yet. But the problem is politicians and leaders and administrators and just us, we are going to think that. Because just imagine this. This was a suggestion from John Straley in the Rule of Evidence 404B in our law right now, right? That essentially prior bad acts are unadmissible. Why? Because they're prejudicial. And I forget now, Lee, do you remember what the Securities and Exchange Law is about? Well, you should know, you're an economist. Anyway, she's retired, yeah. Under the Securities and Exchange Act in the 1930s, that's why all tout sheets for stocks say past performance is not indicative of future results. They're required to say that. They're required to say it. So the problem is past behavior is not indicative of future results. It really isn't. Just because I rob 5 grocery stores doesn't mean I'm going to do it a 6th time. It really doesn't. Now, it might indicate the likelihood that you're going to do it a 6th time. And think about this. I mean, we're pleased, aren't we? I guess that guy in California was caught. The killer, Golden State, whatever, murderer, killer, that guy. But it does raise interesting and troubling questions, right? About how do you escape from this data? And I was telling a story, and Joe Heckman made, I thought this was an insensitive comment about my age, and Lee's too. Is Joe here? Oh, there she is. Okay, well, I'm just saying. I said my first driver's license was just a piece of paper with no picture on it, you know. It's as flimsy as just a Social Security card, which is, of course, Social Security card is worthless as ID, right? I mean, it's such a joke. But of course, any effort to change that, you know, would be met with furor. So they essentially have this 19th century card almost, the Social Security card. But that was my driver's license. And Lee said his was also that way. And Joe, what did you say?
I said, were you driving a carriage?
Yes, you were carriage. All right. I thought that was insensitive to my good friend Lee. Anyway, yeah. Anyway, so that's the serious point of this, that I wish that children, I wish, oh, okay, oh, it's okay. I wish that children still had this road that they could go ahead and then they could do whatever they wanted to do down there. Oh, yeah. You can sit on the floor. Why don't you let your dear daughter take the chair? What? Okay, he's not a very gentleman. But anyway, but they're not going to be able to do this, I'm afraid. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know. All right, so this is it in actuality. This is Elizabeth, and that's what I hope and wish. So that may sound odd to you coming from a history professor, but I thought a lot about this, that I think history is a trap for many people today. It's a wonderful thing to blame all your problems on. It's a disaster, and whether it's in the United States, whether it's in Northern Ireland, whether it's in Israel, whether it's in South Africa, everywhere all over the world, people have bad histories. There's bad history everywhere. Humans have been horrible to each other. And you can find something horrible, and if you focus on that, you are obsessed. You can't escape from it. And it's not got anything to do with not knowing history. You're doomed to repeat it. That's nonsense. People in this usually don't have the distance to see that in fact, they don't have to be trapped by it. And children specifically shouldn't be trapped by it or held back. Okay, so I just wanted to show you that we're in Fairbanks, of course, and we all feel pretty good about ourselves. Let's see here. Okay, well, it's not, there we go. So there we go, the Great Circle map. As you can see, Fairbanks is the geographical center of Europe, Asia, and America. It is. All depends on how you draw the map, right? But I love this. Geographical center of the world. Yeah, right, great. This is a real map. I didn't make it up, but Ernest Walker Sawyer. It's terrific. And I just put that map in there because I thought it was funny. That had nothing to do with anything else. But this show is about playing for history. Look, I wrote this book, and I wrote a bestseller. Bestseller. Yeah. It says bestsellers rank. So maybe people say the guy is still playing at history because, obviously, it's hard to make a living when that's your bestseller rank is a little bit, almost 2 million. Now, John Straley was in the New York Times yesterday, right, John? The day before yesterday. Yeah, he was in the 5,000s. Yeah. Briefly. Low 3,000, sorry, all right. Anyway, okay. So, I'm going to speed up because obviously I'm going too slow. But just to tell you this, you'll think this is humorous, I suppose. This is in 2014. I don't know is John Coghill here? Well, John might watch this, and John, I love you very much. But this, in fact, was, I think, the dumbest idea he ever had. Now, President Johnson, you didn't say that. I said that. Did you notice that? Oh, good, okay. He's sitting here, Mom. He's really horrified. Oh, it's fine. The legislature's out of session now. Anyway, this was the guns on campus bill, which I just thought was terrible. And I was furious at President Gamble because the university leaders wouldn't take a stand on this. So I wrote this compass piece in the Daily News. And I said, I might have been a little bit of an overstatement. The most preposterous idea ever to come out of Juneau. But maybe I was a little bit of a hyperbole. Anyway, so that landed me in the front page of Truth About Guns. Terrence Cole edition. That's me. And this is the guy, this is the author here, who has a big gun. You can see it right there. He's got a big gun. Now, these are the comments on Miras Place. Violent fantasies, yeah, I have lots of them. I live in a gated community. Sure. Oh, yeah. I don't even have a key to my house. A gated community. Che Guevara, yeah, I'm Che Guevara, yeah, I'm insane, yeah. Now, I don't get this joke. Professor Straley asked me, Desmond? I clicked on the towels. There's no joke there. What does that mean? This guy doesn't know how to tell a joke. Now, as you notice, I'm insane again. I'm insane. And I operate at the brainstem level, as you can see right here. Yeah, I could turn violent if armed. So just be careful. Yeah. Okay, I'm almost done. Any fool who's capable of writing a term papar this guy was one of my students. Actually, this was written by Tom Hewitt. No, it's a joke. It's just a joke. Anyway, okay. Anyway, that's me. I'm a geriatric, libertard baby boomer, drug-addled brains. Ugh, anyway, okay. Oh, I cut off my arms and legs. Okay, great, fine. And then, okay, no, handcuffs would be fine, blah, blah, blah. Oh, so this is my big ego. Someone will commit murder to silence me. Okay, well, sorry. Okay, I'm a gun grabber. But I'll show you of all this. Oh, yeah, he's never met an armed person who wasn't perfectly polite. Sure, yeah, I've noticed that. Every armed person is polite. Give me a break. Okay, so, but there was one person on the 80 comments, and I only read this 2 days ago. I've known this was up on the internet for 4 years, and I was actually kind of afraid of it, because I thought, oh, look on these stupid right-wing websites attacking me. But this guy was my student, and all I said was this: don't have guns in the classroom. It's just the last line. And then I knew this guy really was my student, because I rant and rave at these idiotic policy of putting comments about stories, because you can't. This is crazy that the newspapers did this, but this is crazy sort of in our society. But anyway, I thought it was nice, whoever this guy was. Yeah, I should have given him an A. Just a joke. All right, well, this ties into something. So, please here. This ties into something that's quite similar. Wolf kill, 1992. Many of you remember this. A lot of graybeards here in the audience. Jeez. I was looking for a younger demographic, actually. Anyway, this is the New York Times, Timothy Egan, dropping the plan to kill wolves. The Wolf Summit. Dermot, you wrote about the Wolf Summit, right? Michael, did you go to the Wolf Summit?
No, I missed it.
Geez, Carrie. One of the events of the 20th century is the Wolf Summit was held here in Fairbanks. It was really something. And it drew this ad in the News Monitor. Now, this in fact is the most successful advertisement that's ever appeared in the Fairbanks Daily News Monitor. It is. Now, I don't know if the author of this ad is here tonight. Is he here? Did he come? Okay.
He just left.
He just left. Now, I want John Reeves to stand up for a second. John, please. Because I've always thought, geez, John, you're going to make me look little.
No, I brought you something.
No, wait. Shh.
No.
Wait, sit here. I think John. So no, we'll stay here for a second, John. So I think John. Oh, this is great, John. Okay, great.
Don't spend it all in one place.
I won't spend it all in one place. Well, I got a picture with it.
Okay.
So, how many of you know John Reeves? All right, good. How many of you can't stand John Reeves? Okay, John, sit back down or I'll have to get rough with you. No. But anyway, I've always admired John, and I think this was one of the funniest things in my life. And what was amazing about it was I didn't realize until now, this thing, I started researching it, was reprinted all over the United States. And it's great. It was just so dang funny. And there was actually one newspaper that ran it, but they wouldn't use this picture. They just used a picture of a stuffed wolf. They took out Reeves holding the gun into the wolf's mouth. So this is the medal he's just given me. So Jerry Cleworth and Dick Hanscom, I guess they did it. I don't know if Cleworth and, is Jerry here? Okay, well. Dick Hanscom? They made this medal, this silver medal. And if you want it, you can buy it on eBay. $34, that's it right there. I just looked this up a couple of days ago. The Visit Alaska this summer, or the wolf bites it. And so I love this headline. Who threatened a stuffed wolf? Now, you can tell that the reporters had a wonderful time writing this headline, because he wasn't threatening a real wolf, it was a stuffed wolf. And so I know who did it, but I'm not going to tell you, said John Reeves. No. Shh. That's not the best thing. John, it's not the best thing, is it? No, it's not the best thing. This is the best thing. That's the best thing. But I agree with him. Anyway, so they list the other people on here, including Senator Steve Frank, Mary's brother-in-law. No, brother-in-law. Mary's brother. Sorry, Mary. Sorry. Laura, it's your brother-in-law, right? Well, yeah. Yeah. See, Mary's. There's not a chance, John, someone else did that, is there? No. No. I know. And I knew this was John Reeves as soon as this came out. I thought it was so funny. If you go back to there, oh yeah, big mystery of who was doing it. And as Marilyn Romano said, that nobody was really mad in Fairbanks. They were curious about the hidden meaning. What's the hidden meaning? There's no hidden meaning behind that. I mean, unless you're really, really dim. I mean, I guess. Anyway. Okay. You know, maybe if you're a sociology student, that's hard to understand. Okay, that's just a joke. It's just a joke. Is Sina here? Sorry, Sina, I apologize. It was just a joke. It was just a joke. All right, okay. So, just to show you, John gets hate letters too. This is a hate mail. I'll read it to you. Who in the world wants to visit Alaska, or Fairbanks in particular, when slimy Nazi whores like you are living there? How do you expect to promote Alaska when you joke about sick ads showing a masked man sticking a gun in the mouth of a wolf? It's a stuffed wolf. The wolf is the most Christ-like creature in all of God's creation. Can't you see that, you Nazi whore puke? First, you stinking Alaskans vote for a Nazi whore like George Bush. Now, those of you who are older, this is George H.W. Bush. And now you pull crap like this. I hope you all rot up there. Very reasonable guy. Just to show you that we can be equally, you know, I'm not just anti-gun, I'm also anti-wolf. So, well, this is the problem, right? This is the problem. Just imagine if this happened today. Just imagine if John did this today. And if you look on this is the internet, this is this great website called Visual Capital Vision. Yeah, I sent it to you, Lee, didn't I? Yeah, I did. You just don't remember. But they send you a visual graphic every week. And in this, if you look at in 60 seconds, there are 18 million text messages sent on the internet. And 38 million of this kind of messages. I don't know what that means, but that little thing there. Is that a phone message? Oh, it's a phone. Well, I don't care what you guys are saying. It's not right. But look at this. You can tell it was sold by Amazon. So because 67 voice-first devices shipped, well, big deal compared to 2.4 million snaps or 174,000 Instagram. So this is the problem. In addition to all the data, right, it's too fast. Everything is way, way, way too fast. And the problem is we also have it in academia, right? Now, I have crossed off the offending word, but this is an actual journal article that appeared, and this is the text of the article. Now you have to read, I'm just going to show you the abstract. The whole article is that. And so if you look this up, it's get me off your effing mailing list. That's the entire article is that repeated about 1,000 times. And the guy sent this thinking it would be a joke. Instead, they wrote him back, gave him high praise because it was peer-reviewed. And they, for a mere $150, they published it. This, in fact, is the graph that he included in the article. Great. You know, you can't have a good scientific paper without a graph. You see, Susan is rethinking her decision to retire right now. I could just see it. Okay, well, anyway. No, and this is the issue of what it's been called predatory publishing. And if you see this note right here, 42,000 articles, 53,000 articles in 2010, 420,000 in 250, almost 500,000 articles published in these sham journals. And that's our internet problem. And it's combined also with the problem of the speed of reacting to something like what John did. Just imagine if you did that. How many millions of people would respond in hatred to this? And you'd forget about one angry letter. Look, I got 80 angry comments just on some article. And I'm not gun grabbing anybody. I just said it was stupid to put guns in a classroom. And how radical is that? And I'm sorry, I realize that there are some people, I don't know if Pete Kelly is here, but sorry, Pete, I think it's an insane idea. I think it's terrible. I've had students I don't want. Now, I think everyone should have their own atomic bomb because the right to keep and bear arms should not be infringed. And you know, atomic bombs are fine, you know. Handguns, no. You know, right, do these guys really want everybody to have an atomic bomb? Okay, so. As they say in math, QED. All right, well, anyway. So obviously it's part of this, right? It's one of Michael's favorites of Richard Hofstadter and the paranoid style of American politics. And there's nothing new about the paranoid style. This is just who we are as creatures, right? But doggone it, it's bad. Okay, well, I'll just say this is the end and wrap up. This is the great chain of being. And if you look at it, the details, I love it. Of course, there's God and there's the angels. And over here, just notice, these are the bad guys. These guys didn't get tenure. Look where they go. They go straight down to hell. I always like people to think about this because in the great chain of being, everybody had a place and the world was stable. And we live in an inherently unstable world. Capitalism is famously creative destruction, right? Liberalism is creative destruction. Look who we got as president. I mean, that's not a joke. I'm just pointing that out. But the fact is that that's the beauty of the system. It's constantly churning. That's the wonder, but it's also the danger of it that people feel threatened. And people feel threatened more than ever now, partly because of so much information coming at people so fast, and they don't have time to process it and to really think about it. Sorry, I'm making all this noise. And so those are the dilemmas that I think facing forward. And oh shoot, I was going to put Elizabeth at the end again, and I forgot to. Sorry, Elizabeth. That's the challenge that we face, is not knowing more about our history, but escaping from our history. I think so all of you who have any ability, I think the idea of civil liberties, that's so really important because privacy is very, very important, and essentially it's almost extinct now, but it will be far more of a rare commodity in the future. Anyway, so I'm done. I would take a couple of questions, I think, I promise, because Alex was going to pepper me with something. I don't know if Alex came, but if he did, so that's the end of my talk. Thank you. Thank you. You know, I'd just like to say one thing. I think, you know, if you knew I had cancer, you would have clapped a little longer. I'm sorry. but does anybody have a question or?
Yes.
Oh yeah, go ahead. Oh yeah.
If I understand you, humor is one thing that can help us.
Yeah.
What else?
Well, there isn't anything else. The hell, I would have put it in my talk. I had all the, yeah. Well, I don't know. Actually, I don't know. Other than that people actually think, and it's really hard to think in this world. This is really tough for kids. Elizabeth knows more about computers now than I did when I started teaching here. And of course, we carry around enough more, enough computing to build the atomic bomb and to go to the moon. I mean, it's ridiculous. And that's, in a way, it's horrible, actually, that we have this. It's beautiful, too, because I love all the things I can get in the world's biggest library. But the downside of it is, like I said, we're trapped by our pasts now. And people are free sometimes when they don't know their own past, even. And if you,
With optimism.
yeah. Well, you got to make a joke about it. Okay, I'll tell you about General Grant. I should tell the joke about General Grant. Okay, well, this is a good joke. Okay, so this is a joke my dad used to tell. I'll tell it the way I told it, and it's because Ross was there. Ross, did I bring down the house with this joke? No, you did not. I did not. I lost the stupid debate with him. He was saying there shouldn't be any statues of anybody. And my proposal was there should be a statue of Stalin in Alaska. Anyway, that's another story. That was a joke. It was a joke. But anyway, the General Grant story is this. This grandpa was taking his little girl, like Elizabeth. Elizabeth, come here a second. Come here a second. No, just for a second. It's like Elizabeth going to see General Grant. And every day they would go down there and he would give her an ice cream. Pretend you're eating an ice cream. This is what you call playing history. Anyway, so go to see so then we see General Grant, and then finally, so I'll tell the way I told it the wrong way. Finally, the little girl says, "Daddy, who's that man on top of General Grant?" And then I realized, oh no, I forgot to say General Grant was sitting on a horse. See, so I ruined the joke. It made it seem like it had sort of sexual innuendos, and it didn't. The joke was the little girl thought General Grant was the horse, see? So you have to explain a joke. It's not as good. Anyway, that's a General Grant joke. I don't know. Anyway. So the embarrassing thing was, Ross, we were having this debate, and it was on TV. That was the problem. Oh, great. So it's on 360 North. Oh, great. Me and my stupid joke. I said, wait, I told it the wrong way. Well, anyway, does anybody have a question? You have a question, Elizabeth? Oh, stretching. Okay, good. That's like, students are often like that. Oh, yeah. Oh, hey, Craig.
After a lifetime in history, who do you most admire as a historical figure?
Gosh. Repeat the question. Oh, yeah. After a lifetime in history, who do I most admire as a historical figure? Gosh, I admire a lot of people. I still love Thomas Jefferson. And one of the things I'll tell you, that's why this issue about the Confederate monuments is so interesting. I don't think those monuments should have been taken down until the Ku Klux Klan started making it their issue. And because history shouldn't be waged with guns or knives or Molotov cocktails. And once it gets to there, you can't. But there's many, actually, admirable figures in the Confederacy. They were brave men. Many of them were brave men. And we may know now that they were misguided. But remember, of course, even though slavery, and with Maida Buckley, I always tell Maida, the war was about three things: slavery, slavery, and slavery. But even though the war was about slavery, it wasn't about states' rights. Slavery was the states' rights they couldn't agree on. But nevertheless, no one thought they were fighting to free the slaves initially. That comes later on. And so we see the Civil War now in a completely distorted way. And many of the people of the Confederacy were brave men. And that's, it's still the worst war in American history. And so I admire a whole lot of people that are maybe not admired by people anymore, because I think our age is too hypercritical just like me living in the gated community. They assume they know something. They don't know anything about me. Oh, that was the point I was going to make. On that right-wing journal, they don't know anything about me. I live in a gated community? Jesus, I'm a right-wing nut by university standards. No, I am. Who would say they admire the Confederacy? Nobody would say that. Now, if Sina was here, she wouldn't say that. Sina, are you here? No, okay. No, I'm just joking. I shouldn't joke. That's bad. I shouldn't joke. Okay, I'm just a joke. Yes. Oh, yes, Desmond.
Who's your favorite historian?
My favorite historian?
Aside from yourself.
Well, Dermot. I like Dermot's books, you know. The problem is he doesn't have any footnotes. Because Dermot's right. I will sometimes, and he joked about this, I will sometimes rewrite a page 100 times. And as he points out, it doesn't necessarily get 100 times better. Matter of fact, you might start out where you end where you started out, and it's terrible. You spend all that time on what, you know? And I've told students in my class, but this book I'm trying to finish now. Hopefully I can. Hopefully I'll live long enough to finish it. Well, there's 2 books I wanted to write, but it's at least one is a Klondike book, and so it's about George Carmack. No, it's not about him, but he's a character. So my lead was this. No one ever said that George Washington Carmack could not tell a lie. Now, I think that's a great line. It took me forever. Isn't that funny? That's a good line. And I must admit, I'm really lazy, and I often judge a book by its first page. Because I think if somebody can't capture me from the beginning, they don't. So, Greg, that doesn't really answer your question. I don't know. I admire lots of people for different things. And I suppose in Alaska history, I just admire, it's like that famous line of Roosevelt, anybody who gets in and does things. Because even if they're wrong-headed, sometimes you've got to admire people who work hard. And I love Bill Hunt. Yeah, I love Bill. But I admire anybody who works hard at whatever they do. And, you know, they might spend their time with paint, like Kess. Todd, you know. What do you guys do then? Anyway, and, you know, just because I don't respect it doesn't mean I don't admire it. That's just a joke. It's just a joke. Yesterday, Kess was telling a joke about sculptors. Are any sculptors here? Todd, Kess, can I repeat it? No, I won't repeat it. No. Okay, so that's, any other questions? Oh, yeah. Oh, John. Oh, jeez, really. All right.
Do you have a list of your favorite first lines of other people?
No, not really. That's a good idea. Dermot always brings up that one about the postman rings twice. Is that what it's called? I like that one from Lonesome Dove, you know. But I can never remember if it's "Get You Pigs." Is it "Get You Pigs"? That's not the first line, but I always so great. James Michener's Texas and Lonesome Dove came out the same year. 2 more unlike books you can't imagine. And Michener's book, of course, like his last book, starts 100,000 million years ago. It's a terrible line, you know. But in Lonesome Dove, they're arguing about where's the nearest good shade. It's so funny. And he's chasing away the pigs, and where's the nearest shade? Because there ain't any shade where they are. So, yeah, that would be a good thing, right, John? Well, you know, I may not make it to 70 years and 10. I'm hoping to make it to 70 years and 5 later this year. And if I do, that might be one thing I should do. So, anyhow, oh yeah.
Terrence, what will you miss most about teaching?
I think, you know, giving people Fs. No. Joke. Bad joke. Wait, I gotta ask, was that bad teaching to say that? Because if you got offended for some reason that you're hypersensitive, I apologize. No, I really, you know, we have among wonderful students at the University of Alaska. Now, the truth is, you know, Chancellor White and President Johnson may not want to say this, we also have terrible students at the University of Alaska. We have some of the best in the world and probably some of the worst in the world, except for Anchorage, of course. Anyway, I mean, I really enjoy the students a great deal, and I really do. And I know I'm a really bad teacher in a lot of ways. I mean, I am. I'm extremely disorganized. I don't stay on the topic. I have a big mouth. I have, you know, to me, now I've never been to a Grateful Dead concert, but if I would, basically that's how I run my whole life. I improvise everything. And so today, I think my talk was pretty damn well organized. Despite all the criticism. No. It's just a joke. I'm just joking. You know? Anyway, but that's what I would miss, of course, you know? Of course. Because it's really hard. And I have a lot of students here who I can see in the audience, and I have to tell you, I'm really grateful. You came up from Anchorage, and Ross came up from Seattle, and, you know, Henry came from Aurora. Yeah. Aurora, yeah. Okay, so, Straley, what are you getting up? I mean,
I'm just gonna go get my sleeping bag.
no, wait. Oh, I'll take one more question. No. Okay, Chuck. Oh, well, go ahead, yeah. I want Chuck Lemke to ask a question, but come on, Chuck. Make one of your smart aleck comments. Come on. No, never mind. No, it's okay.
What's the best book you ever assigned?
Oh, best book. Oh. The best book I ever signed. Gosh, I don't know. Oh, I like Still Go, yeah. Oh, yeah, I do show that. Now, that one wasn't very popular. It's called Outside Lies Magic. I still think it was a good book, but my TAs,
I still remember the tail veil.
yeah, it's terrible. Okay, parts of it were bad. I don't know, that's a good question. I used The Killer Angels, and people always like that Civil War novel, and I still love, even though Ross is going to publish an article slamming Klondike Fever, but I still love Pierre Berton's Klondike Fever. I think it's a great work of genius. And, but, gosh, I don't know. You know, Mary, what's the name of that guy you wrote a book about? Walter something. Oh, it's Walter Harper. Mary's book about Walter Harper is pretty dang wonderful. Oh. Okay, thank you guys. And there was a reception out there.
I'm Dixie Deo. I'm from Manly Hot Springs. I took a Alaska history class from Dr. Cole, and it had a really positive impact on my life. His teaching style was incredible. It was just amazing. He was so personable, and the stories that he told really added to the actual events while we were taking the class, so it was very theatrical in the Scheibel Auditorium. And it was just really, I never missed a class. I looked forward to the lectures. You never knew what we would be talking about. We had our assignments, but sometimes it went way beyond the assignments, so it was always truly an adventure in Alaska history, and observing his teaching style really put us at ease in sometimes difficult subjects. And he really engaged with the students, and so it was fun. He made history fun, and it came alive. The stories that he told and the historical events really came alive with his teaching style. My father was Stanley Deo, a gold miner, and so I have a history growing up in the gold mines and spending time out there. So that was a real interest of mine, to read stories about the gold mining history in Alaska. And as we all know, we have many histories in Alaska, and hearing his stories about the gold mining days and about Fairbanks in particular was really interesting for me. One of the things that Dr. Cole did for me was when we had our, the student and teacher conference about the paper that we do, he really narrowed down a topic for me, which is the Alaska Native Claims Settlement Act and in particular village corporations. He suggested that I really focus my work on the Alaska Native Claims Settlement Act, and specifically, again, the village corporations. And that really had a real positive impact in what I wanted to study and talk about and really look into on a deeper level and also personal level. And so I always am grateful for the time that he spent with me talking about that and narrowing down that topic and showing such a genuine interest that we carry on his fine work. And so I'm just really grateful that I had an opportunity to take a class from him and to share this little brief story. So thank you, and thank you, Dr. Cole, for everything you've done for me and for our state of Alaska. Thank you.
I've known Terrence for over 2, maybe 3 decades now. He is a friend, a colleague, and as of late, I'm his supervisor. I'm the Dean of the College of Liberal Arts. So I know him as a professor, a recalcitrant professor from time to time. But back when we were professors at the same time, I'm an art professor, he's a history professor. I came and guest lectured for one of his classes here at Scheibel Auditorium. And I can't remember exactly what his part of the lecture was, but it was probably about the dictators of Europe or something like that. And then I did a presentation in that same class on the masks of the Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta, Yupik Eskimo masks. And they're fabulous masks. And he managed to work with me, and we made a joint discussion based on these 2 disparate ideas. And he's always one for trying new things. He's incredibly creative. He's a good friend. He's probably one of the most empathetic people I know. But he's also one of the most frustrating people to deal with if you're his supervisor. Before I knew Terrence, I knew his twin brother Dermot better because his kids were roughly the same age as my 3 kids. His eldest son is named Connor, my eldest named Connor. They played soccer, they were in scouts, same scout troop, and the girls played soccer. So there's a certain competitiveness with Dermot and his family where I didn't have that with Terrence. He's such an incredible person. And even tonight's lecture, you could see that, his ideas and how he approaches it. And I just want to say, like many people do, love you, Terrence. Thank you.
Well, I think it was maybe about 30 years ago. I knew Terrence, and he was working pretty hard in the history department. So one day I said, come with me to Chitna. And he'd never been to Chitna. And so I said, it'll be all right. I got the gear. So I picked him up. And I noticed when he threw his sleeping bag in and stuff, he also threw his briefcase in. So I thought, well, yeah, it's a long drive. He'll probably get some work done, which he did. Lots of grading of papers, simultaneously talking. And but I was surprised when he brought the briefcase down the cliff to the river. And so that, I think, is pretty indicative of his attention to his work, his commitment to his job, that a guy like him would even bring a briefcase to Chitna.
Terrence was the most incredible teacher. We had a mutual student named Janine Dorsey, who was in the Northern Studies program working on her PhD. And she had collected reams of data on the coal bunkers, which was a big issue in Fairbanks. They were shutting down the coal bunkers, they were dragging it off. People were going and getting pieces of wood as souvenirs. And Janine had amassed all this knowledge about it, and she couldn't figure out how to write her dissertation. So she went to Terrence Cole, and Terrence Cole said something I will never forget. He said, Janine, you shouldn't just write the history of the coal bunkers, you need to write why people care about it so much. And that was great advice, and it was a great dissertation.
Actually, I know Dermot a little bit more than I know Terrence. But what I really liked about what he said tonight was humor. Humor is what gets us through all of this. And beyond humor, keeping optimistic. Sometimes it doesn't make any sense, but a lot of things don't make sense. And I think that he demonstrated as well as spoke about it today. One thing I disagree with him a little bit is the role of history. I think knowing history is helpful. It doesn't mean that we have to follow it. It doesn't mean that that it's going to tell us what the answers are, because it depends on the time, the place, on a lot of things. But it helps us stay optimistic and make the world a better place. At least we can try.
Well, I'm going to tell you about that first year, hopefully not the whole year, but so I came to Alaska, moved to Alaska permanently. I grew up in the fishing industry in Bristol Bay. My father was the last of the APA superintendents, so here I was, a fish person, and got dumped and decided to go to school in Fairbanks, where they really didn't have a lot of fish. So I'm taking his class and I'm thinking, oh my God, all we're going to talk about is gold in this class. And over the duration of the semester, I realized that Terrence was enthusiastic, he was supportive, and he was exactly the kind of professor I needed for my committee. Because quite honestly, I was pretty directionless. I didn't really know where I was going. I wasn't actually a historian. And honestly didn't really like it that much. Hated research, but I knew that I needed to have Terrence on my committee. So, of course, in the class, he said that we were all going to have give presentations. We never made it to that. We ran out of time. But I knew that if I was going to convinced Terrence to be on my committee chair, I needed to prove that I was capable of actually doing this. And so I said, I want to do that presentation. He said, okay. The rest of the class is a little annoyed with me, so I show up to class dressed to the nines, dressed for success, and I say, I have to go to the bathroom. And they're like, okay, well, whatever. I leave, I come back, and I'm in full sliming gear. So full Grundon, and I transformed myself into a Slimer. So he thought it was so hilarious. I don't know how great the presentation was, but he thought it showed enough courage and dedication that he took me on. And needless to say, I went on to get my PhD. I teach history at the University of Alaska, Anchorage. I am now overseeing that project that I wanted to do way back 20 years ago. We're working on a big project with the State Museum, doing an exhibit on cannery life and cannery culture, and documenting people who are invisible to the historic record and bringing those stories to life. And mostly I get to go every day into a classroom, and instead of it being a burden, I bring the same kind of joy and just wonder, and really the wonder of learning that he taught me, and I never ever have forgotten to laugh. That's my Terrence story.
Well, I got to know Terrence decades ago, and we worked very closely together on a film that he was putting together. It was his idea to do a film on the 50th anniversary of Alaska's Constitution and 50th anniversary of statehood. And a film, as I remember, the title was Creating Alaska. And it's a film that's still being shown. And Terrence was the guy who put it together. And at that time, there were quite a number of people who had been members of the Constitutional Convention, and the Secretary of the Convention, Tom Stewart, and consultant George Rogers of Juneau. And I had been a delegate to in the Constitutional Convention. So I worked very closely with Terrence in creating the film. But he was just impressive as could be in terms of knowing history, understanding, being creative. And he was most phenomenal interviewer. He would sit you down and start asking questions, and he would just draw out information that people didn't even know they had. And time and again, he did that with me, sort of just delving into historic elements and then verifying and talking to other people about it. And it was a phenomenally creative process that Terrence undertook. And we just got to be very good friends in the process of that, and then putting some other projects together, and writing and creating, and
it seems very humble.
He's very humble, and at the same time, he projects a lot of energy, a lot of strength, and wonderful brain power. And it's great to see him today in the condition that he's in, where his mind is working with sense of humor still as it always was, and looking at material that he was displaying to the people. And it was mind-blowing just having a person who collected all that stuff that he then used to not just entertain, but to do a really creative analysis of what's happened, what the current policy, the national situation is, how to look at the future, what about the internet, and he has this wonderful way of using real historic material in a humorous way to just get ideas and philosophy across with a phenomenal amount of energy.
So a few years ago, Terrence and I were on a TV show down in Juneau. We were on this panel discussing statues and historical memory and things like that. Terrence knew, being the socialist pinko commie that I am, that I was going to spout some kind of nonsense about collectivism or whatever else. And so in the middle of the show, he reaches into his bag and he pulls out this little, it's a little bust, it's only about that big, of Joseph Stalin, and gives it to me. And now I have it on my desk, which I treasure it dearly, which is an odd thing to say about a maniacal dictator who killed millions of his own people, but nevertheless, it was a wonderful gift. But the thing that I really wonder about it is that Terrence didn't quite know what I was gonna say in this panel, but he had that little statue ready. I like to think that Terrence had to carry that bust of Joseph Stalin around for 10 or 12 years, waiting until I said just the right thing so he could take it out of his bag and give it to me. And that makes me feel really good, and that's the kind of guy that Terrence is. So dedicated to a bit, so dedicated to a joke, that he would invest a decade of carrying this thing around in his bag. He's the best, and I love him very much.
Well, I was the archivist at the university, and I met Terrence when he was an undergraduate. And I knew Klaus Naski quite well, and later on, I knew that he had gone to graduate school. I think it was at Eastern Washington. I think it was Eastern Washington. And that he was eager to come back. And I, at the time, it was working with Elmer Rasmussen about the collection of bank materials and of his personal papers. And we were in the bank basement in Anchorage at, I think it was C Street, or no, it was a downtown branch, I think, maybe C Street. And we walked through boxes and boxes of bank records, and Elmer asked me if I knew anybody who I thought could write a history of the bank and could help him with that, and maybe an autobiography. And immediately I thought of Terrence and got hold of Klaus and got hold of Terrence and introduced him to Elmer, and the kind of the rest is history. He was just the ideal person for that position, and he worked there for a number of years, doing the bank history, doing the biography of Elmer Rasmussen before he joined the university. So it was really a great opportunity to bring a really qualified historian to a great project that was well funded. You know, with Elmer Rasmussen, you didn't have to worry about grant applications and if you were going to get paid or whatever. I mean, he wanted the job done well, and he supported Terrence and the job. So that was one of my introductions to him as he came back. But I knew him during the years I was both archivist and director of libraries. So that's my story. He's a great guy. Both of them were great guys. We were just reminiscing about Elmer Rasmussen's stories on the stage as I said hi to him. So there are lots of stories, more stories. Thank you.
And the story I have is I had an elder hostel group in town, and Terrence was supposed to talk to him about the history of Fairbanks. So we all congregated in a classroom at the university, and Clarence came in with this 3,000 overheads under his arm, and I introduced him to the rest of the class, and there was one question. We never did get to talk about the history of Fairbanks. One question led to another, and it was all about Alaska in general, which was good for the people too, but it was not the planned event that we had anticipated. Anyway, thank you very much, Terrence, for all your contribution to elder hostel programs, to the University of Alaska Fairbanks, and to the Alaska people in general. Thank you.
Terrence is a funny guy. He's a brilliant guy. To be in his presence, the ideas keep swirling. It's just like a dervish, like a whirling dervish, and I've seen whirling dervishes, and so I really use that totally accurately. There are a lot of different things over the years that I could smile thinking about, you especially. The last thing was, last year you walked into my office and you said, we should be doing a centennial speaker series. And he said, and I'll go get the money for it. So I said, okay, we'll do a centennial speaker series. And we did one. He forgot to get the money. He forgot to get the money. But we had a good time, and it was a good idea, and we recorded it for posterity of the various presidents and chancellors, and thank you for that. Thank you for always keeping the mind going, because I, like you, it's really hard to turn it off. So I really, truly appreciate it. And you've taught us so much in the last year by being open about what you are experiencing. And that's why we needed to celebrate you tonight. And probably for the next year or so, or 2 years, or 10 years, who knows, whatever. Anyway, thank you, Terrence. And I hope you keep knocking on my door and saying, I've got this idea.
It was overwhelming and humbling, and I'm so grateful to everyone who came out and or sent me notes or cards. It's just sort of been really a wonderful, wonderful experience. I mean, truthfully, I mean, I love getting attention, but I'm extremely embarrassed by it at the same time. So it's a difficult balance, you know, because who doesn't love being attention and being praised? But I know too well how often I failed and the mistakes I've made and always tried to do better. But I'm just grateful to the university and to the Fairbanks community for all the support they've given me for so many years. And I wanted to say thank you to everyone.